Hello, everyone. Today I am looking at the game Anna. Now, it's really interesting that I played Anna a long time ago, maybe a decade ago, and I just realized, I'd never actually done a review on this game. And I guess I had a renewed interest in this game mainly because of the soundtrack. So, I mean, right there, I'm giving it away. Like, this game, you're coming to it for the soundtrack and just the vibe. There's something about this game that really, I don't know how to describe it. It really affects me in a certain way, maybe more so now more than before, for a few reasons. So yeah, it's like, I mean, this whole thing, it started as a survival horror game with horror elements, but it's much more artistic than that. There aren't really jump scares. There are just weird Silent Hill puzzles without the weird monsters, but it still feels more on the side of Silent Hill than Resident Evil in the sense of, how would I say, a psychological thriller. And so what, the story is, and bear in mind, I'm trying to, recall this from 10 years ago, is that there's this, first of all, this is an Italian game. So it's already going to be artsy, weird, interesting. But there's this white cabin in the forest, and you go there looking for Anna or something, or something. And you kind of have to go through again this psychological, test or thriller or something, and you go inside this, this white cabin, and you kind of go on the inside, and it's all haunted. And when you enter, then you have all these puzzles to take care of, and all these other things. And the soundtrack, it just has a bunch of acoustic guitars, but it's very soulful. And I always thought it reminded me a lot of the Minecraft soundtrack. You also, so you have this whole thing around cults, rituals, and whatever. But I think what ties it very strongly to a game like Silent Hill 2, it has that ethereal, mysterious, psychological aspect of at least, the feminine energy. And it's this, how would I say, the puzzles themselves aren't super hard. I think I got stuck once or twice, but it's this essence and this energy that I can only describe as the divine feminine that they are trying to exemplify here. And so similar to Silent Hill, where James is trying to run from his past, his guilt, his deception, his deceit, he is attempting to reconcile something deep within him that is manifesting as all these monsters and creatures. And it's similar to other games like Umineko. It's kind of like they give you the artistic expression and the creative abstract mechanics and vision first before you get the reality. It's not like you start Silent Hill and it's like, I killed my wife and this is my hell. No, it's the exact opposite of that, right? It's the character experiencing these things, and it's the player that slowly has to put together what happened. And in that process, what occurs is what I can only call a dynamic of mystery. It's like, okay, we're experiencing all this weird otherworldly stuff, but what does it mean? And there are some artsy fartsy games that come along and they say, oh, the meaning's too deep, you can't possibly understand it, and they're just kind of stroking their own egos essentially. And that is true sometimes, where you don't have anything of import to say, and you just, it's a bunch of random stuff that doesn't make any sense. But when you have this kind of structure of game where there is like a definite reason and meaning behind it, but then you obfuscate it with what would I say, with the interpretation or the subjective feeling of it, it's I know it's the equivalent of looking at a mountain range and the story or tragedy or comedy or love story that happened there, and then taking that into an impressionist painting. And you have the impressionist painting first and the mystery, and then you kind of have to decipher what it means. And again, that's a whole, convoluted thing where people will completely misinterpret something, even against the artist's intentions. Like, no, this is just all it is. This is what it means, that they go over the top. But I think that entire aspect of at least having a mystery that from a narrative perspective is something that I frankly miss. And I'm much more interested in now that I'm older, because it feels more, how would I say, it feels more mature in a certain way, that there's something that, okay, this isn't just, oh, look at this weird thing, like, let's experience it together, like, I don't know what it means. But now I find that my ability to interpret certain things is much more advanced and much more personal, and the abstract things I can better, how would I say, better understand, or at least better interpret, even to an extent where even if it's not the creator's intention, I'm able to at least create something more dynamic out of it. Another, example or version of this would be people who, they go back to a piece of art and they reread a book and they see something deeper that they didn't see before. And this is one of the games where, again, it's very simple, it's very abstract, it probably doesn't have a very sharp meaning from the developers or creators, but it definitely is something that I can use in a way to interpret and construct meaning out of and create something really interesting. And yeah, there's this whole thing of like, oh, it's a cult, oh, they did experiments, oh, they did this thing, oh, it's evil, and now you're tarnished. And I think they changed the ending from like the normal version to the extended or complete edition, which made it more dumbed down. But I'm getting back to this idea or this concept of mystery. And David Lynch would love this, right? Because I would say that something happens and there's no reason for it, and it's not one of these LOL XD random events, but there's something definite and purposeful to it, but it simply is withheld from the person. So it's a difference between of randomness without meaning, but randomness of withheld meaning. And the inability to explain it, I think, allows, how would I say, it allows the interpreter or the experiencer or the player to create their own version of these events and their own meaning and apply it to them. And the temptation for the creator to come out and say, nope, this is what it means, can't be anything else, this is it. Even other people interpret it like, oh, my interpretation is superior to yours. I much more prefer that open interpretation, because I don't know, maybe we've run out of ideas, but the more abstract levels of thought that occur from mysteries are far more interesting usually than the mysteries themselves or the conclusions of such. So, perfect example is, in, works like Umineko, or, how would I say? Was it Umineko and, well, I mean, it's based on Agatha Christie, and the game is trying to make the point. Umineko is trying to make the point that when the murderer is not known and his motives are not known, it's far more interactive with the reader to superimpose their version on the series of events, and for them to come up with, oh, well, maybe this is what it is, because you have to figure out like a detective. And in the process of doing that, you stimulate all of these alternative realities that in the end are not true, and they're going to be nullified by the truth. But the argument is made that the mystery and the unknowingness of the situation and its romanticism is far more interesting and engaging than the truth. And it's such a interesting, fascinating thing to think about, because it's true. We're more interested with the possibilities, the newness, and that entire mode of thinking you enter when there is a mystery. It's something that almost overtakes you. It becomes way more than what it is. And so I just have thought about the genre of mystery and the games that are truly mysterious, where they refuse to elaborate, that in those moments we are left with this sense of awe, this sense of mystery, this sense of, I don't know, and I'm fine with not knowing. It's like when people were, people try to explain the timeline of the Legend of Zelda series or something. Like, there are obviously direct sequels, but I really don't care at the end of the day. It's like each game is its own self-contained thing. And if you are able to express or say something about the human condition that is far more important than the details of, well, is this real? Did this really happen? The story and the mythological purpose that it's trying to express that is beyond comprehension, a parable essentially, that is what is more important. And and this game is filled with puzzles where we have to put human hearts that are still pulsing inside fire stove wood things and burn them so that the wooden statue will fall over, making you giving you a key to access the second floor and all that stuff. So again, just to bring it back to Anna, what is Anna's mystery? And I would say Anna's mystery is Anna. Who is Anna? And it's obviously some woman, some female, some kind of divine feminine essence. And again, because it's ambiguous, you have to think and stipulate and randomize and open your mind to the possibilities of what this thing is. And I mean, I'll just kind of spoil it right now, but the ending, or at least one of the endings that I got, I think there are a few multiple ones, is that you kind of come to this underground part of the house, and you're going underground through these tunnels. And at the very end, you are met with a protolithic Venus statue. And so I had no idea that these things existed until I played this game. And so what they were, as people say, is there are 3,500 years ago, the cavemen essentially were crafting these statues of what they considered to be goddess statues, or, statues of women, or worthy of worship. And what's interesting about them is that, they look really weird. So the head is kind of, I would say almost disfigured, or not disfigured, but it's made of a bunch of like hexagons almost. So there's no defining feature, unfortunately. But the one thing that you do see is that it is, it's very curvaceous. It's a very large woman with massive thighs, massive hips, just a massive body. And also, massive breasts and all this stuff. And so it was seen as the peak, the peak female figure, or the peak image of fertility, that this is what, they were going for and what they worshipped. And so there's definitely a very strong divine feminine essence in this game, where it's trying to tell you something about, I don't know, about the female experience, or female energy, or female, like the story of something so much more abstract than some personal singular person, but about woman herself, and Anna herself as this essence of, what would you call it, of womanhood. And so there are these other, things about, the goddess and the essence, and the thing, but it all feels very mythological and very archetypical in a way. And so it is with cults and all this other stuff, but I really enjoy the game because it has a sense of mystery. And it's not just that there's a mystery about this woman called Anna, but there's a mystery about women in general, and the idea is that the woman is the mystery. And that is so much more interesting and compelling. The idea that this nature or this form of humanity is something, you know, you can't explain, but it's something you fall in love with, and it's something you cherish and maybe you despise, but it's something that is beyond our comprehension as to what this thing is. And I think they try to make it more streamlined in the alternate ending, where it's like, oh, you betrayed some woman and now she's come back to haunt you, kind of thing, as a ghost, which is kind of like, okay, whatever. But again, because of it is so highly abstract and so highly differentiated, like, this is the one of the few games I would say is a honest to God, definite 100% art game. Like, there's no going about it where it's not a survival horror game, it's an art game. And yeah, okay, it's a walking simulator with hard puzzles, mind you, okay, but it has something to say that I think is really worth playing, and I want to see what people say when they read it and they see it, or read it, experience it, and give their own interpretation, simply because it is so abstract, so archetypical, so interesting that I know I just feel it's worth looking at and experiencing. And the music is really nice too. You know, Silent Hill fans, line up. Everyone else, maybe consider it. But yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about this game. It's something that I've just come back to and just thought a lot about. And just, the different ways you can represent humanity in weird, abstract, different ways. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I gotta say. Kind of an underrated gem, I would say. And yeah, that's it. See you guys later. Bye.